often I've seen students having a lot of confusion with respect to where to study from, where to practice from, because we have so much of resources available, and because of the digital content, social internet and all, we've got ample amount of resources available. So where to study from, where to practice from, so this becomes a little confusing. So I'll just tell you what are the sources of practice and studying available and where you should do it from, and then later on I'll explain another part. I'll explain how to study and how to go about preparation part. So right now I just want to cover the material or the resources required to study. So one part is going to be study, and the second part is going to be with respect to your practice. So when I'm looking at studying and practice, so studying, you have two options, three options I would say. Institute curriculum. So the CFA Institute provides its books with all the subjects, all the chapters, etc. So the institute curriculum, Schweser, or class notes. So now when you're looking at the institute curriculum, when you register for the institute, with the institute for your exams, you are automatically provided access to digital content. You have to mandatorily pay for the digital content, in the sense that online access to study books, study material, etc. So you understand how the CFA Institute has structured the entire curriculum. So there are chapters, so there are 40, 50, 60 chapters depending on CFA level 1, 2 or 3. Each chapter has got subheadings, LOSs, learning outcome statement. So say for example there is one chapter of, let's say, 14, 15 pages in length, and it has got, let's say, 7 or 8 subheadings. So each subheading has got about a page or two, a few examples, sums, concepts, etc. So that is called learning outcome statement. We understand that. So the institute curriculum, Schweser curriculum, will have the same identical chapters and LOSs. Institute curriculum is going to be relatively much lengthier. I have seen a good number of students. No, I have seen, let's say for example, out of 100, I would probably see 10 students attempting to study from the institute material, and out of those 10 students, 9 students would leave the institute material and get to studying through Schweser ultimately, because the institute curriculum is very lengthy. Now the institute, now when you're looking at these international institutes and all, because the uniformity has to be maintained and globally the exams are taking place, so therefore what happens is they have a very clearly defined curriculum. So they have chapters, and each chapter's the subheadings, the LOSs are defined. So say for example, if an LOS specifies calculate so and so, in that case sums can come. Describe so and so, in that case sums of that topic cannot come. You can only have subjective questions on that. So basically the LOSs are very clearly defined. The institute material has got content much beyond the LOSs. They give a lot of practical case study, etc. also. So this content is much, there are quite a few extra components in the institute material as compared to the Schweser material. So this becomes lengthy. The examples could be good, especially when we see the level 3 curriculum, we check the examples, but the examples also kind of go beyond the syllabus, beyond the curriculum. Extra content I've told you, and it is very lengthy. So this is the reason why institute curriculum, students do not prefer to study from the institute curriculum, and it becomes quite challenging. So what we do is we generally study referring to the Schweser material, to the Schweser books. So Schweser books are kind of a summarized version or a condensed form of the institute curriculum with all the concepts, examples, etc. given in the Schweser textbooks itself. Now the problem with Schweser is going to be that obviously it is condensed material. So therefore at times certain concepts are not that very well explained. That is one. And second problem that we have is Schweser, the level of difficulty, level of questions or the practice questions, even the level of examples at times is really bad. So the reason why we refer to Schweser is because it's easier to study, it is time saving, but along with that what happens is, in order to get in the depth of the content, you have to study very well. So you have to be very attentive with the lecture, and there are extra pointers or anything that is required, you'll have to note it down. So I do not make you write the entire syllabus, I don't dictate full notes and all, it is very irritating, but writing improves retention. So writing is important. So I derive the formula. That derivation will not be there in Schweser, but I will derive and show it to you depending on which topic and where you are studying, or as in which chapter you are studying and what topic you are studying. If needed, anything extra will be there, explanations will be there. Generally like to make you write the formula, put arrows, this goes up, this goes down, arrow down. So I like to make you write in short notes form. That is how I prefer, because even when revision, you write things in the margin of your textbook and all, so it becomes very easy to revise and very easy to retain. So those things are very important. The way you approach, the way you study is important, because you have a limited time frame. But practice of Schweser material is absolutely below standard, so I am not very keen on that. But for study, we'll will stick to Schweser. There are certain chapters where Schweser is going to be a little bad, in my opinion, again, with all due respect to all the material and everything. This is my opinion as a student, because even I have studied as a student, and you know, as a student I would do this. And then the next thing is your class notes. So there are topics like, for example, ethics or something. So ethics, again, ethics is one of the most, it's easy, it's small. The same 7 standards are going to be there across level 1, 2 and 3, but the standards have a lot of very application based questions, which is very tricky and very difficult. And ethics, it's very important to crack, and the questions are very confusing, the options are very confusing. So I have put in my notes in certain way where, say for example, all the examples, 500, 700 examples have been condensed together, all the examples together into each standard. These are the examples of violation, these are the examples of not violation. So I have put it together in that way. So my class notes is going to be what you have to study. So there are for quite a few chapters, my class notes is what you'll have to study, and you do not have to touch the book twice. If you want, you can brush through, skim through it, and you will notice that every single point has been covered. And anything beyond a particular topic, beyond what is mentioned in Schweser is needed, then that is going to be covered through class and class notes. So class notes you will be writing in the margin of the chapter, and there could be certain chapters where you don't have to touch anything else, only class notes is sufficient. Did you understand? So there could be chapters like ethics or derivatives or something where only class, whatever I'm making you write in the class and doing in the class is 100% comfortable, complete. Other than that, you can browse through Schweser, you'll not need a word. Certain kind of chapters you'll go through Schweser with me. There'll be a lot of notes I'll make you write in the margin, shortcuts, etc., or explanations of formulas, derivation of formula, maybe extra pointers and all that you'll have to note, and along with that you study with Schweser. Institute curriculum you'll not have to refer in terms of studying. Next I come to the practice part. Now for the practice, what happens is Schweser has got, at the end of every single chapter, you have 10, 12, 15, 7, 8, whatever number of questions depending on the chapter given at the end of chapter for Schweser. We don't even count it as practice. So this you're doing by default. Dudh bhat, I don't know if you understand, Dudh bhat questions here. So you just do it anyways for the sake of it, and it is not even counted. There are good questions at times, but end of chapter questions are relatively too simple. For let's say level 1 time value of money, it is still a few good questions are there. And I've somehow noticed that over the years, as the editions, when you're looking at newer editions, they are removing difficult questions. So that is very bad. So I've seen some very good questions used to be there 5, 7, 8 years back, and those questions are no longer there. So Schweser end of chapter questions we are not even counting as practice. Institute end of chapter questions, so behind every single chapter of the institute provides you a digital curriculum. So behind every single chapter that the institute provides, they have a list of 10, 15, 20 depending on the length of the chapter. They have certain questions which you have to solve. Institute end of chapter questions. So we are not studying from the institute curriculum, we are studying with Schweser or class notes depending on the chapter, but you have to practice from institute material. So you'll be absolutely clear in terms of through practice you'll be able to judge that yes, you have covered the entire material. A few questions might be beyond the curriculum, but they will not turn up in the exam because the exam is very structured. Every single question has to be pertaining to a particular LOS. So learning outcome statement that is given, the headings of the chapter, the subheadings of the chapter that is given in the institute curriculum is identical with Schweser. So there is a chapter, let's say time value of money, explain present value and future value, explain present value, future value, explain present value, future value. This might do too many examples or might be a little more detailed or more complicated. This would be more simpler. And whatever mistakes you make, say for example, do not put a minus sign, make sure that plus and minus sign is carefully put when you are entering PMT or FV in calculator. Once you start studying, you'll understand that don't make this mistake. This kind of complicated question might come. What if this turns up? Then how do you solve the loan amortization question? So all these things we discuss in class, which is not given in Schweser. So beyond whatever the institute material, whatever needs to be done, beyond the Schweser material is going to be taken care of. So that you'll have to study. You can't, whatever I'm doing, if it is not in Schweser, that is a part of your curriculum. You can't leave that. Anyway, so practice, institute EOC is the most important thing that you have to do. Another thing is that students also contemplate in terms of whether to buy a digital copy or to want to have a hard copy. My suggestion very sincerely and very strongly is, my recommendation, Schweser and class notes, you should always have a hard copy, because what you're studying should be in hard copy so that you can scribble, write, flip through the pages. You need that hard copy book, that tangible book. And when you're looking at practicing, it should be always online. So all the practice, try to put it online, because what happens with this is that when you're practicing online, because the exam is computer based. So when the exam is computer based, if you practice online, because the reading speed online is generally lesser as compared to your reading speed in hard copy. So we have to get used to that practice ability online. So it is a very good idea to practice online, at least some chunk of practice online. So it becomes better. And then, so that is why institute end of chapter questions, you have access, and there are students who have access on iPads and all these things. People use tab and all that, and on that also you can practice. It becomes easier because you can sit with a pen and you can do the marking and all that. So that is fine, but otherwise you use your laptop or computer, because in the exam you can't solve questions on a tab. So exam attempting and all I'll separately discuss. So you'll have to practice a little online. So my recommendation, institute end of chapter question, you keep a digital copy. Whatever you want, you write down. So this I would recommend, say for example, digital copy. This I want hard copy. This is provided in hard copy. And obviously if there is any class note that is given after you have enrolled for the classes, in that case it is provided on your app. So that is how we go about it. Institute curriculum, digital copy is fine, because we are anyways just practicing from this. If you want to still go through some example, digital copy will do, and printed copy is very, very expensive for the institute material. So I don't recommend to do that. Institute online, institute has, obviously it is online as digital obviously. So institute online is the institute practice portal. So on the institute's portal, once you register as a student, after that once you log in, once you've enrolled for the exam with the institute, then you have the practice portal over there with lots and lots of questions. Generally subject wise questions are provided, and the quality and the standard of the questions is very, very good. So that is what you need to practice. So also if you're looking at a priority wise, institute end of chapter questions high priority, institute online questions high priority. Acha. Now then, and I sincerely and strongly recommend to practice only institute resources, because ultimately see what happens is, one, I do not create questions because I am a teacher, I am not a content creator. So what happens is, when you're writing questions or making questions, it's another task, and I am teaching. My focus and my concentration is on teaching. And normally what happens is, the CFA Institute has such huge amount of practice resources that it does not make sense to because you'll not be able to exhaust this. You have unlimited resources. You'll not be able to exhaust this, these resources, these practice resources. And normally what happens is, I'm not commenting on any particular, anybody as such, but what happens is normally people would reframe the question, reword the question, renumber the question, change the numbers, change the names in the question, and remake a new question. So it does not make sense to do refurbished questions. I'd rather do the source of the questions, and the standard and the resources of provided by the institute is absolutely amazing. So that is the reason why I sincerely recommend you to do the institute resources. There are people who might be, do not construe this as a comment on anybody, but that is what I would do as a student, and I have done. The next part is your class test and practice book. So these two books are provided to you. These are hard copy, these are printed copies to you, provided to you. Again, they will be prioritized after the institute end of chapter questions, institute online questions and all. You can practice in CFA level 3. What happens is, since we do not have, since the syllabus has changed quite a lot over the last few years, so therefore we have only one book in terms of practice, but level 1 and level 2 you have 2 practice books and all. It is always a better idea. Even before this, I would recommend you to practice the mock papers. So institute generally gives more papers out, releases more practice papers and all for CFA level 1 as compared to level 2, and more for level 2 as compared to level 3. So practice papers and all, the mock papers, the past institutes mock papers is what I would recommend. That is what you need to do. So this, always practice institute resources. That is what I would recommend. Otherwise, also and then the last priority will be Schweser practice book. So when you say for example you buy Schweser books, generally you will have 5 books which covers all the entire curriculum, and there are 2 more books which has got 6 mock papers. 6 mock papers, AM, PM, AM, PM, AM, PM. So morning half, afternoon half. So it's, if it's level 1, 90 questions. 6 of such papers, 90 into 180 into 6 papers, or for level 2, level 3, 44, or whatever the format is. Accordingly, you have that many questions and papers provided. Schweser practice books is only recommended for L3. This one is only for level 3, level 1, level 2, absolutely not needed. Because in level 3, we have less practice resources available. Also because you have a lot of essay type questions. And essay type questions, there is a lack of resources in terms of essay type questions, good essay type questions. And the standard of questions for Schweser practice books is better for level 2 as compared to level 1, and even better for level 3 as compared to level 2. So for Schweser practice book for level 3, both essay and the MCQ, the item set, I would recommend you need to complete the Schweser practice books. Also, the Schweser has some online questions and all, not needed at all, absolutely not needed. So this is not needed for level 1, 2, 3 either. This is only needed for level 1, only for level 3, sorry, level 3, L1, L2, not needed, this one. So Schweser practice books is not needed for level 1, level 2 because institute has got ample resources. You will not be able to complete these many. So we have infinite resources. You'll have to decide, and you'll have to again, based on that, you'll have to go about it as to how much practice you'll be able to do. There is a performance tracker that we provide to the students. So what happens in the performance tracker, I've got all the details provided in terms of over here I'm just mentioning, you know, what are the study resources and practice resources. Beyond that, for example, a performance tracker would be having, say, the order of study, in which order. So first this chapter, second this chapter, in which order you have to study, the importance level of chapter, how lengthy the chapter is, etc. And I have categorized for every single chapter. I have categorized that for chapter 1, let's say you have to do all these 3. For chapter 2, let's say you have to do all of these things. For chapter 4, let's say you have to do only these 2 because chapter 4 is not important, or there is barely any confusing question from that chapter. But if there is a confusing chapter, or if there is a chapter which has a lot of difficult questions, or if a chapter has, let's say, less number of questions turning up in the exam. So from one subject, let's say one subject has got very less weightage in the exam. If a subject has less weightage, you have less number of questions in the exam. If you have less number of questions in from one subject, then the accuracy has to be high. Let me give you an example. Let's say one subject has got only 5 questions. If you make 3 questions wrong, you are standing at 40% accuracy. 3 wrong questions and you are at 40%. 4 wrong questions, your accuracy is 20%. If I have 10 questions in a subject, if the weightage of the subject is high, and if there are 10 questions in a subject, from a subject, and if I make 4 questions wrong, if I incorrectly answer 4 questions, I have 60% accuracy. But if it's 5 questions, my 4 questions wrong means 20% accuracy. Selective studying and all is not going to work. Don't even dare to try that. So where was I? So what was I saying? I forgot. So basically on a chapter wise basis, I will be categorizing and telling you that for this chapter you have to do all these questions, for this chapter you have to do these many questions, for this chapter. So on a chapter wise level, I'll tell you what all practice, what amount of practice is the minimum. Obviously I'll give you the minimum requirement, not the maximum requirement. So that is how you'll have to practice. Also there is a lecture how to study and practice. So once you start, there is an exam mentoring folder that I provide to the students. Exam mentoring lectures I provide. In the exam mentoring lectures, you have how to study, how to practice, how to revise, how to attempt your exam, how to use the calculator. So all those things are provided. And how to study and practice, how to study and how to practice is extremely important before you start preparation. How to attempt your exam is even more important before attempting the exam, because that gives you how to approach the exam paper, how to approach the exam and all that, and how to manage the software, as in the exam software that is there in the exam mentoring lecture series. So all those things are there. So that details is going to be provided later in that exam mentoring lectures. But you understand what are the resources available. So for each chapter I'll define, but this is my priority order. This I'm not even counting. This is my priority order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This I'm not counting. This is by default. So I'll put a 0 over here. This I'll put a cross over here. Have you understood? And studying will again depend on from chapter to chapter. So that is defined. But it will be either Schweser plus whatever extra I give you, or class notes for certain topics. Calculator, obviously it's required. Level 1 students would have to understand this. Level 2, 3 students are anyways used to. So we have a Texas Instrument BA2 plus, either professional or a non-professional version. There is a calculator lecture series separately. We've got all that discussed over there, but you need a calculator along with this material. So apart from this, you will not need anything. So obviously when you're looking at the institute curriculum, digital curriculum provided by the institute, when you register, online portal access, etc. provided by the institute. Schweser hard copy, you'll have to purchase the Schweser practice books in this. Class notes and etc. other things, everything is provided by me. All you need to do is institute curriculum digital, you will get access when you register with the institute, and Schweser 5 books, textbooks, 5 textbooks and 2 practice books you will need to purchase. You can connect and you can buy that yourself. We do not provide that. Other than everything else is taken care of by us. And calculator, obviously you'll have to purchase separately. Make sure that you do it with a warranty, because I have seen students having issues with calculator. Although my calculator, I cannot see, it's here. So my calculator, this one was my sister's calculator, and then I got this one. So it's at least, she's quite old, so it is quite old. So this calculator is going to be at least what, 10 years old or so, more than 10 years. 2000. It will be like 12 years old or so. So this calculator is quite old and it's working perfectly fine right now. But later on, what I've seen with the students is the calculators have given a lot of issues. Not a lot of issues, like 1 in maybe 500 or so. I'm just giving a ballpark figure. And so therefore make sure that you buy a calculator with warranty. Print, I told you, Schweser textbooks, I need the hard, I would recommend you a hard copy if you want to study with a soft copy, because I've seen students, you know, I have never been appreciative of this Apple brand. I think it is, I am still of the opinion, very strong opinion, it is very overpriced. But I liked a couple of apps like GoodNote and Notability and all. So GoodNote is something that I use very frequently now, and so there are, I've seen students making notes and all that. I really liked it actually. So one of the students actually pushed me, not pushed me, but showed me the notes and all. I really liked. I like stationery and writing and all that. So if you're having those PDFs in a tab, whatever tab, and on that if you're scribbling, I've seen another student uses a Samsung one and it's very good. The pen is very good. So if you're using them, that's a different question, but I still would recommend hard copy for Schweser. Just the 5 textbooks at least. Even practice book if you want to keep in soft copy, it's okay. And calculator you need to buy. I don't provide the calculator. I don't provide the institute material. I don't provide the Schweser material. Institute books, I told you, digital. Online portal is obviously digital. Schweser books, 5 books and 2 practice books. Recommended hard copy. Cost of material and all is not much. You can check that later. And the class resources. So whatever else, class notes, if there's anything, you have access to an app for the doubts and all that, and a lot of things. There's a performance tracker, order of study, importance level of chapter, all the features about the chapter. I'm making a lecture guide also. So lecture guide, you can take it for granted that it's all there. It'll be out in a week for all those. So lecture guides are there. So lecture guide is basically on a lecture by lecture basis. So lecture 1 is 30 minutes. I have taught this in this lecture. This topic is important. So on lecture by lecture basis, I'm trying to give a good narration, as in what I want to tell you for every single lecture. So those are there. The mentor notes, I told you how to focus, retain, being productive, and managing time with work, and a lot of things is there on YouTube also, and a lot of things are there in the class, this thing. And exam mentoring, one of the very bit important, that is your how to revise and how to study and all of that. Then question answers, practice lecture, revision lecture, etc. Anyways, I'm not discussing all that right now. The study and material part that you need in terms of studying and practicing, I'm just focusing on that. Other than that, whatever are the things to be availed, that is provided, I'll discuss separately with the in the class lectures part. So this is in terms of what you need to order: your calculator, your digital books with the institute. So once you register with the institute, you have access to that, and the Schweser books. That is all that you will require. Other than that, everything is going to be taken care of by the classes. And this is what you need to prepare. This is what you will need to prepare. This, because the problem what happens is, if you try to study one chapter from Schweser and institute curriculum and class notes, it's always a problem. Because even when I was studying for my exams, whichever exam, be it CA or CS or CFA, whatever, it's always, you know, you haven't that image, you know, during the exam you think, I'm just not being able to recall. On the top left side, bottom side, or top left side, there was this part, and I'm just not being able to recall. You have that picture memory, you know, you're able to recall the image, you know exactly from where this question is or this topic was written, but it's just not striking. Now what happens is, when you study the same topic from 3 different places, it creates a problem. So it is extremely important that you study one chapter from one place. You want to study from institute curriculum, you follow that. You want to study from any XYZ book, you follow that. That is okay. But the point is, don't study one chapter from 3 places. So even if you're studying with class notes, let's say for a chapter, I'll ask you to skim through the Schweser books. You just go through it. You see everything is covered. If you are finding anything extra, you note it down over here. So the point is, even if I told you already that even if there is anything extra required beyond Schweser, which is required from the institute curriculum, I'll make you write it over here in Schweser. So when you're studying, you're going to be studying your book and your copy of your class notes wherever you're scribbling. There are students who don't like to write in a book and they want to write it in a separate notebook. And depending on which chapter, how much I have to make you write. Like a time value of money, I'll make you write a lot of examples and questions and all in the class. So, but I don't make you write paragraphs and paragraphs. I'll just be sticking to formulas, shortcuts, derivations, sums, practice sums, because there are difficult sums we'll have to practice beyond what is there. So whatever extra is there, I'll do that. But you will not be studying the same content. Like you're not supposed to be studying the same heading, topic, definition from 3 different places. That should not be done, because that is going to confuse you. Your attention will go down. So we have to be very, very careful about that. So, but this is what I prefer. This is how my students study. So you think about it, and yeah, that's about it. But make sure you don't study from multiple resources, and also you have to understand you need time to revise. If you're studying and if you do not have time to revise, you'll not be able to retain and answer questions on that in the exam. You also need time to practice. You also need time to study. You can't just simply, I've seen students, they'll do the lecture and they'll immediately start practicing without studying. That does not work. You have to go through the chapter, you have to absorb the concepts, you have to understand. Learning, not mugging up, is required, that you understood and absorbed the concepts very well, the theory, the formula, whatever it is, whatever we are studying, and then you practice. So the point is, you are not supposed to be practicing everything that is out there. This practice is good till year 1, 2, 3, 4 is very good. And for level 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for CFA level 3. So you have to know, you have to be very clear in terms of what you need to practice and what you don't. And also depending on the time frame you have, you started preparing early or later. So at that time, what we do is we'll club, let's say 1, 2, 3 we'll do along with studying, and maybe 4 I'll do with revision. Or 1, 2 if I've started even later, if I'm not in a good position in terms of my curriculum. So I'll do 1, 2 along with studying right now, and I'll have a longer duration for revision, and then I'll do 3, 4 or whatever is possible. That I'll keep on guiding you on a monthly basis. I keep on guiding as to what is your situation in terms of preparation and how you need to go about it. So those things, as you move forward, you'll understand. But this is what your preparation material, your material and requirements look like. Tell me, comfortable? So, this I've already told you.